As far as running backs go, Alabama may be on the verge of getting a good one.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. I'll tell you about Monarch Money here in just a little bit. Also want to thank you everydayers for being here every day. Thank you newbies for being here today. Thanks everybody for making this first listen every single day. You guys are the best. Jimmy, we're going to start off with a little EJ Crowell talk. Crowell. I've heard it.
I'm going with Crowell, and one day we'll have him on our proper pronunciation segment. We'll find out for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, people, by the way, people have loved that. We got to do that again. In fact, I may need a refresher course.
Probably Sunday. I think on the next show we record, we'll throw in about 7 or 8 more. Okay,
you know, I thought that we would have the segment here on EJ's commitment day, which is June 26th. It's going to be a big day for Alabama fans. I truly believe that. It's only a few days after his Bama visit, which is June 20th weekend, I think. So, I mean, you feel really good about it. You felt really good about it anyway, because it's just, I mean, he's been leaning to Bama. At least that's what everybody believes. I believe it. I find him to be an incredible player. You know, you could make the argument. I can't think of a better running back prospect in the state since maybe Cadillac Williams. Now, you tell me if I'm wrong.
Ooh, that would be fun to look up. That's going to be fun to research. Off the top of my head, yes. Off the top of my head, that's what I believe. There's been some other good ones. Even
Kion Johnson would be in the discussion. But the thing about Kion, now call Nick Saban a fool if you want to, but I think Alabama wanted him to play safety. And I'm on record saying if Kion Johnson had played safety, I think he might have had a longer NFL career. Maybe I'm wrong. No, but I'll tell you, the guy, that cat was good. I called him several times for state championship games. But I believe EJ may be a better running back prospect than him. I think it's close, and I think Kerryon's awesome. It doesn't mean I don't think Kerryon isn't awesome.
As a prospect, everyone wasn't 100% sold on Kerryon sticking at running back. So for that reason alone, I would put Crowell ahead of Kion Johnson, while acknowledging that Kion Johnson was fantastic.
It worked out for him.
And at college, and went on to play in the NFL and play running back. I agree with Luke, though. I'm curious as to if he did the whole thing over again as a safety. He obviously wouldn't have been as splashy because safeties, aren't the sexy position that running back is. And I think he was a Heisman finalist or something one year. But heck, if he's playing safety, he might still be playing the NFL.
SEC Player of the Year. I mean, look, there were a lot of positives. If there's an Auburn fan listening going, oh, you hate Kion Johnson. No, I thought Kion Johnson was fantastic. I wanted him badly. Again, it worked out in the position he played. I think what Jimmy and I are saying is, had he played safety, I think he was so good, I think he could have been still playing, just like you believe.
The greats can play numerous positions.
Exactly.
I mean, how good would Julio Jones have been as a safety?
Oh, I mean, again, I'm also the moron that thought Derrick Henry may switch over to linebacker like a lot of us thought. And I bet you Derrick Henry would have been an incredible linebacker.
Probably would have been pretty good.
He ended up doing okay. Now, I say all this because EJ Crowell is going to commit June 26th. We think he's going to Alabama. And, Jimmy, I showed you this. We have our own at Locked On. There's at least a guy or two that actually work on recruiting and do their own little rankings and things. And they sent us this graphic. These are what they consider to be the top 12 running backs for 2026. And the first thing I did was scan this and go, okay, where's EJ on here? And then I said, oh, well, I must have missed him. And he's just not on there. And I love our network. I think our network's great. I think it is borderline nuts not to have EJC. I'm going to call him EJC.
Oh, cool.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to not have him on the list at all. When you look at ESPN, you look at On3, you look at Rivals, you look at 24/7. They all have him high 4-star at worst. Like ESPN, which is notoriously probably the least highly regarded of the big services. They have him number 31. I mean, normally they don't
position, not number 31 running back.
Yeah, number 31 in the country.
I wonder if the Brian puts that together for Locked On. I wonder if he did that prior to the reclass.
That was my only thing, and I asked about that to Zach Blackerby, who hosts Locked On Auburn, who has Brian on his show several times, and Zach said, I can't really remember what he said, why he wasn't ranked. He said, but I think it was age related. Now, I took that to mean, okay, yes, we considered him, but because of his age, we didn't rank him. But Zach may have been trying to tell me, and again, in Zach's defense, he couldn't remember. Zach may have been trying to tell me, hey, we didn't factor him in. But I do know this list came after he had made his announcement that he's reclassifying. So to not have him in there, it's just, I thought for a second, but if it is age related, do you think EJC is 6.5 years old? Because, I mean, that's the only argument I can think. I saw this kid play in the state championship game last year. Now, granted, it was such a mismatch in that state championship game that maybe you feel like you couldn't take anything from that. But I watched Landon Duckworth and EJC and Juice Gordon and, who's the other wide receiver?
Chapman.
Oh, those dudes. It was a different level. I felt bad for I'm not even going to mention the team they played. I felt bad for them. It was a no contest. It was a no contest.
And Jackson's probably even better this year.
They're all back. Every one of them. I mean, Jackson is going to moonwalk to a state championship this year. I believe that. But EJC he's incredible. Look, if you want to say, hey, I don't think of as highly of him as you guys do, I get that. If you want to say, I think he's committing to Bama and I hate Alabama, and you don't want to rank him, I get that. And I respect the honesty. But I don't know how you don't have him among the top 10 running backs in the country. I mean, it's in fact, when most places have him among the top 4, if not top 2.
Yeah, there's other running backs out there like Derek Cooper, for instance, is just outstanding, the running back from South Florida. And I admit that if you watch tape of Derek Cooper and then watch tape of Crowell, you might favor Cooper, but just I don't in this one sense. I mean, Crowell is the guy I want in Alabama. I mean, and more so than even Cooper. I mean, I'm factoring in he's from here. He loves Alabama. I mean, this is just the match that's perfect for Alabama out there. There's no other back I would want. I don't care where he's ranked on anybody's list. I mean, this is the back I want. And we've been we've practically turned this into an EJ Crowell podcast since Ron Williams has been delivered to Alabama. And we've been talking about.
He started his own podcast. Since Ron Williams has his own podcast, we legally cannot say this is a Ron Williams podcast anymore. But that's also another great point, Jimmy, because last year Ryan Williams reclassified. Did you not rank him because of the age? And if you didn't rank him, I don't know what to tell you because that guy is ridiculous.
Yeah, Charles Power has a really interesting story that's up on 3. Charles Powers, the head of the recruiting rankings department for On 3, and he wrote this story. It's super interesting. I've been railing against all these kids reclassing for a while, and now there's some real numbers to back up. Okay, all these kids that have reclassed, how's it worked out? For most of them, it hasn't worked out well. For most of them have had lesser impactful careers than projected at one point. And it's so overwhelming, the numbers, you have to look at reclassing and saying, hey, it's not really working out for these guys. Now, he does note, it is true, Ryan Williams is a glaring exception to all this. Ryan Williams may be the number one exception to this. And what do we talk about here on the show all the time? We talk about rules and exceptions, and you want to bet on the rules. Don't bet on being an exception to the rule. But sometimes those exceptions to the rule, like, Charles Barkley's probably a little short to be considered one of the all-time greatest rebounders in NBA history. A player built like him, leading the league in rebounding, that's an exception to the rule. Ryan is an exception. Now, will Crowell also be an exception? I'm willing to bet on it. That's a kid I'm willing to bet on. But in general, I'm not a fan of reclassifying. And I think Charles's article, which I urge everyone to read, backs that up. It just doesn't work out for most kids, and it makes sense. I mean, this is a developmental sport. It's just like going pro too early. It doesn't work out for a lot of those guys that go pro because they're not ready. And boy, can you imagine high school seniors probably shouldn't be playing SEC football against 23-year-old redshirt fifth-year guys.
I agree with everything you're saying. I agree with Charles Powers. I think the stats back it up. I will say this. I think if we do the stats again in 10 years, I think what will happen is we'll realize that more people who did graduate early were successes. The reason being because now everybody's got their own coach. Now everybody's got a better feel for it. Now people are moving around high schools to be more like little bitty colleges. And I think that as people move around and get a feel for it, I'm not saying I'm for it because, my wife put up a picture of our daughter and sent it to me and my parents just saying, hey, first day of school to last day of school because today's your last day of school. And the growth of just Sela in second grade is so noticeable. And I was thinking, man, I don't want her to grow up. I love this age. And so there is part of me that's like, I don't want kids leaving their senior year because even entering college, there'll be somebody before too long that'll enter college midway through his junior year or something nutty. And they'll miss a year and a half of high school. And I don't want that. I mean, let them be a kid for a minute. And the problem is there's just so much money at stake.
That's why. That's what's led to all the reclassing is the sprint to the NIL money.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And listen, when you get some of that NIL money, you know what you want to do. You want to download the Monarch Money app. Yeah, you want to download that Monarch Money app. You know you do. And because I've used it, and it's great. And if you've ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in for you. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control of your finances. It isn't just another budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop managing your money and you start building some wealth. Finally, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word, LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege, and that'll give you 50% off for your first year at Monarch Money, which you will absolutely love. That's a Jimmy Stein guarantee. I did a Jimmy Stein guarantee because I don't think people trust me. I have on here that we were going to talk some more recruiting stuff because I know Alabama visited a linebacker they love, but I don't think we got time because we have to catch up on your rankings.
Coaches are off the road. Are off the road. The road stuff is done. They took a little bit of a break, although there was some golf, there were some meetings. I know. And next week starts a new phase of recruiting, which is official visits. So next week's shows, we will be previewing each day. We'll pick out a handful of kids to talk about that will be making their official visit the upcoming weekend because this is it. It's showtime when it comes to these official visits. It's about pressuring those kids to make a decision and hope it comes up crimson.
Hey, what happened to our Twitter handles underneath our names? Do you know?
Did they finally kick us off Twitter?
I mean, it would be funny if Elon Musk was like, oh, you can have, as many racist or derogatory posts as you want, but we can't have that Luke and Jimmy guy on.
Exactly.
They're awful. That's Twitter has become, I just about can't even look at it. It's rough. It's rough out there. They probably did kick us off because we're not rough enough.
It's a tough neighborhood. It's a tough neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay. So I do want to talk about these S&P rankings from ESPN because I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to give a shout out to Clint from Locked On Bulldogs, the Georgia site. He posted the S&P, not S&P, that would be something totally different, but the SP Plus, that's what it's called, right? SP Plus.
Bill Connolly from ESPN, who's he's highly regarded in the industry.
Yeah.
I think even coaches, they want to know. Bill Connolly's a really good numbers cruncher, and he's got the ear of even coaches with his info.
Well, they have Ohio State at 1. I can buy that. I mean, even though their quarterback situation is a little sketchy, I mean, of course, Alabama's is too, but I can buy that. Ohio State
roster 1 through 85.
Yeah.
it's Ohio State's got a great case to make. Roster
Yeah.
1 through 85, that they're the best team in the country. They've got a really good case to make.
Well, they've got Ohio State at 1, Bama at 2. And again, I want to give a shout out to Clint Shamblin at Locked On Bulldogs, because he posted this in our Locked On College chat. And he was like, I'm telling y'all, Bama's going to be good next year. Now, a couple of folks who are not Bama lovers in our group, and I won't tell you who they are, but they were like, no, they're not. They don't have a good blah, blah, blah. But I think Clint's onto something here. And they got Penn State 3, Georgia 4, Texas 5, all the usual suspects. They have my son's school at Arizona State in at number 22. I'd love to see them do well again. And then they have Florida at 14. I thought that was a little high. And Auburn at 25. I think Florida at 14 is the biggest shocker in there to me, because when you think about, okay, I know you're probably high on them because of the way things ended and because you saw some potential in like a DJ Lagway or whatever, but their schedule is still just
right. That's why I think S&P is more like a ranking of who's good, nothing take into account who's playing who. I think it's just I think what Bill Connolly really focuses on, the SP Rex, is returning production plus recruiting rankings. He actually takes that into account in terms of evaluating, your roster 1 through 85. That's what he's looking at. Who's got the most talented teams and who's returning the most talented players. Yeah. So he looks at returning production, recruiting rankings, and even recent success for those who's like, Ohio State seems too high. Well, he's also looking at recent success. And obviously Ohio State was extremely successful a year ago. I also think it's notable that even though football is a team game, Ohio State may have the 2 best players in college football, in Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver and Caleb Downs at safety. They may be the 2 best players in the game. It's hard not to rank them that high. And as we know, Julian Sayin, who's likely to be the quarterback, certainly highly regarded, didn't appear to be that great this spring.
Yeah.
But gosh, talk about something he's still a very young player.
If you're throwing to Jeremiah Smith, you can look better.
Yeah, he does have a pretty decent asset out wide. I think Sayin's one of these kids that might look not great in September, but check back with us in November, after he gets a little bit more experience. I think he's going to be really good. I'm not crazy about Ohio State at 1. I do think Alabama at 2 kind of verifies a lot of the optimism that we've been spreading this whole offseason about this team. I'm not ready to predict what Alabama is going to do this fall, but I know it won't shock anyone out there to hear that I'm super optimistic. And Bill Connolly having Alabama at number 2 justifies the optimism. It's not just, hey, there's the Alabama guys saying they're going to be great. I mean, Bill Connolly could care less about Alabama. He crunches numbers, and per his numbers, Alabama's at 2. So that justifies all this offseason optimism. But as Luke mentioned earlier, now you start playing that schedule, and Alabama's is pretty brutal. It's not tough. Florida or Oklahoma's. But it's hard.
It's tough. Yeah, Oklahoma's is a bear too. But again, Alabama's certainly no cakewalk. The thing about Jeremiah Smith, and as much as we love Ryan Williams, and that love will never stop, and I wouldn't trade him for anybody. Jeremiah Smith had the more productive year and was probably burst on the scene a little more. Ryan Williams had the more signature moment against Georgia for sure. But what I think, though, I've seen some pictures, and I know you've seen them too, of Ryan Williams and Isaiah Horton working out and training with Devonte Smith. And maybe it's me, and maybe I'm just biased. Ryan Williams looks bigger and stronger.
Oh, no question. To me,
I mean, he looked – last year he was a string bean. Dude, I thought he looked kind of ripped.
I would say 10 to 12 pounds of muscle added on. And hey, it's going to help him. I love that he's working out with Devonte, because we talked about this the other day on our show, and I've been asked about this in other places. Say, well, what can Ryan do to get better? He can do a lot to get better. We've always compared him to Devonte. We were doing that here on this show when Ryan was in the 10th grade, and we're telling y'all, man, this kid at Saraland in the 10th grade is unbelievable, and he's a lot like Devonte Smith. We were one of the first to talk about that, because we do talk about Mobile prospects when they're very young, because I see them a lot. Well, this is what Ryan can do to get better. What did I always – it used to be a running joke I had on Twitter before apparently Elon kicked us off. It was a running joke I had on Twitter. I'd say all the time, randomly, because, I thought it was funny, which usually means it's not. But I thought it was funny. I would say, I don't know where Devonte Smith is right now. I just know he's open. That's what we used to say about Devonte. That's when you start saying about Ryan. Ryan did that in high school. He was always open. And that's one of the reasons that I thought the comp was so great. Ryan in high school was open no matter what defenses they tried to put on him, no matter what kid they put on him, no matter what zone they put in. Ryan always got open. I think that's the challenge for him. Let's be saying that about Ryan this fall. Like, you notice that Ryan is like always open.
Throw it to 2.
That's what we used to say about Devonte.
Throw it to 6.
It's because he's open.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to say about Ryan this fall is improving not just the route running that causes that, but his knowledge of seeing a defense and knowing where the spot is. Hey, if they're lined up like this, I can run to this spot and I'm open. And Devonte just had like a bat sonar about doing that. And I think that's what's ahead for Ryan.
All right, this is going to be a quick end to this segment here, but I've got to bring this up. The Athletic came out with their top 25 players in college football since 2000. They had Cam Newton at 1, which I get. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it, understand it, and fair enough. Okay, Reggie Bush at 2, Ndamukong Suh at 3. That's who I might have at 1.
Okay.
Suh was out of bounds. Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Ed Reed, Vince Young, Tim Tebow, Travis Hunter, Terrell Suggs. They had Devonte Smith at 13, and they had no other Alabama players. And they ended it with number 25, Quentin Nelson from Notre Dame, who I'm sure is awesome.
Yeah.
But the first thing I thought to myself was, you're going to have the top 25 players. By the way, they have Christian McCaffrey at 17, and that's crucial because there's no Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
And I'm like, what are you people do? If y'all hate Bama, so be it. But if you can't put Bama on the top 20, Derrick Henry on the top 25 list of players since 2000, your whole list is invalid.
It invalidates.
He was incredible.
It invalidates the list. Derrick is making a case of being the greatest running back of all time when you factor in the entirety of his career, high school, college, and the NFL. He's going to be up there in that argument about the greatest of all time. And for him not to be in the top 25 is insane. They didn't have any wide receivers ahead of Devonte, though, right?
Yeah, they had Larry Fitzgerald. Oh, I understand somewhat, but
yeah, I get it. And Larry's a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt. But did Larry do more as a collegian than Devonte did? And
did he win a game, national championship game as a true freshman by making the biggest catch in national championship history? Did he win the Heisman? Did he he would have had 300 yards receiving in a national championship game if he hadn't gotten hurt against Ohio State? And really quickly, let me tell you some guys that are ahead of Derrick Henry. These guys own the list. They also have Aaron Donald at 20, and I'm like, that's also ridiculous. But they have Brock Bowers ahead of Derrick Henry. I love Brock Bowers. He's fantastic.
We talk about him all the time.
It's not even close to who had the better career. Marcus Mariota ahead of Derrick Henry. What is wrong with you people? All right, we got to go. We got to go because we got to talk about your. We got to get back into your countdown. And as soon as I find this button. I guess the recruiting folks at Locked On and the Athletic were just like, let's just see if we can upset Luke and Jimmy today. Mission accomplished.
So weird, both dissing running backs.
They have Andrew Luck ahead of him.
The devaluation of the running back continues, spearheaded with EJ Crowell and Derrick Henry. Pretty funny.
That is true. That's true. All right, so you got number 70 on your list, Jimmy, and that is?
Number 70 is Abdul Sanders, 70th ranked player on this football team per us here. Abdul had he's not with the red shirts. I had guys who projected red shirts at the bottom of the list. Abdul's not with that. I'm projecting Abdul Sanders to play this fall. I think we're going to see him primarily on special teams. Another kid who had kind of a noisy spring for a true freshman. He was given an opportunity because so many of these upperclassmen inside linebackers were hurt. So he was given more opportunity than most true freshmen would get. He took total advantage of it. Actually, I think stood out more than his fellow inside linebacker freshmen, Duke Williams and Luke Metz. I think Abdul was the best of the three right out of the gate. Shouldn't be a big surprise coming from a program like Modern Day that he was ready to play. We talk about that all the time on the show. These kids that come from the extremely large, powerful, elite high school programs, they catch on to things really quickly on the SEC practice field. So watch for Abdul Sanders to play some this fall. He will also be a major threat to be a starter in year 2. Alabama will sadly lose all 3 of its primary inside linebackers after this fall. Deonte Lawson, Justin Jefferson, and Nikhai Hill-Green are all seniors. They'll all leave at once. And inside linebacker will be a major story for Alabama in the spring of 26. But Abdul Sanders will be a huge contender to possibly win a starting spot in year 2. 69, let's talk about that because as we record this, we're 69 days out from the start of fall camp. Cam Howard is 69. Not much to say here. He's sort of squeezed out. But one thing I will say about Cam is he was better this spring than I anticipated. We saw more of him this spring than I would have thought. And it could be that he's making a bit of a move. I don't think we know with Hubbard and Sabb, they're your starters, right? They're super excited about Zay Mincy. He's safety 3. So there's your 3 that are going to play. I mean, those 3 will soak up all the minutes. Ivan Taylor is a guy they really like at safety as a freshman. We hadn't got to him on the countdown for a true freshman. He's way up there. So we kind of have Cam Howard roughly next. Might see him at Husky a little bit, perhaps, although that's primarily going to be Deshaun Jones and Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. But Cam Howard, probably a guy we're going to see some on special teams. He's a transfer from the Charlotte 49ers, was on the team last fall, didn't play a lot. I think he'll probably play a little bit more than we saw him last year. Looks like a pretty good-looking athlete, really. But DB is just one position where Alabama's got a lot of big-time dudes that are going to eat up all the minutes. So we have Cam Howard down at 69.
Yeah, and I think those are good spots for them because I think, like you said, both of them will play. We've already passed that line of demarcation where we think these are the dudes that will almost definitely redshirt. And I think Abdul Sanders is a guy that's going to get on the field a lot. I mean, like you said, got to get some minutes in there for somebody for next year.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to go into next spring with no inside linebackers that have played at all. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to be that 4th inside linebacker. Abdul Sanders has a chance to be that guy. Now, I don't have him ranked there. I think QB Reese is the guy that I would project today is going to be in that role. But Caden Jones is also in that argument. Maybe Abdul Sanders next. But he'll be in the mix to be that 4th guy. And whoever that 4th guy is, they need to get that guy some snaps. Because you don't want to go into next spring going, well, I guess we have to go to the portal. They might go to the portal for an inside linebacker with all the experience going. But they do have a number of talented kids that might be ready quickly. Abdul would be among them.
I'm going to tell you something. After talking with the Locked On Buffs guy, I'm much higher on Nikhai Hill-Green than I was. I mean, I thought he was sort of, not trying to kill him or anything. I'm just saying I wasn't super down with it. I was okay. But that guy got me fired up.
Yeah,
Kevin Sarbo, I think that's his name.
Yeah, Kevin Sarbo at Locked On Buffs. I think Deonte Lawson, Justin Jefferson, and Nikhai Hill-Green are all 3 going to play almost an equal amount of snaps because that's how good they are. I mean, I know Deonte's the headliner and he's kind of the captain, but Nikhai Hill-Green's going to play a lot. I sort of see him splitting that other spot with Justin Jefferson, maybe on some run-pass situations where I think Nikhai might be a little bit better against the run and Justin Jefferson's really good in pass coverage. So they'll probably mix and match based on opponents and matchups.
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back soon. Look, it's Memorial Weekend. Everybody go have a blast. We'll be back here shortly. We'll probably be back Sunday, probably. I mean, I love doing it, so let's do it.
Pronunciation guide stuff.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. I want that. That's what I want. I wish we should go back through history and do something like Alabama history, because they're probably something that I've been mispronouncing these many years. But everybody have a wonderful and safe Memorial Weekend. And until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.